It's been a really unsettling week, obviously, with so much information still unknown about the man who killed Charlie Kirk, how long it took him to get into police custody. Was he acting alone? Did he have accomplices? Is this part of some larger network? Should we expect other similar attempts at other people's lives in the conservative movement? The media would have you believe that we're dedicating this episode today to these questions by spinning conspiracy theories. And frankly, we're no strangers to the tinfoil hat game. We play the tinfoil hat game all the time over the past few years on the Isabel Brown Show. And we've really come to appreciate that the tinfoil hat game, aka conspiracy theories, are usually just facts 6 months in advance at this point in American history. But these are not conspiracies, okay? These are completely fair questions that are just based on observable evidence and patterns of behavior that I have witnessed up close in a front row seat for the past decade plus of my life. So why isn't the media asking these questions? Why are they not accurately reporting based on what's being obviously revealed as a larger connection and a web of, at the very least, violent threats and things that already could and already have escalate into violent actions? Like, what are we doing? All of this started to feel particularly unsettling to me when I saw a clip a few days ago. There's been this organic, beautiful memorial put outside of the TPUSA offices where I used to work every single day. And a few days ago, I believe it was on the 14th, a young man showed up to this memorial where tons and tons of people have been camping out outside of the TPUSA headquarters. He shows up, this 19-year-old guy, to vandalize the memorial, to kick over signs, to trample on people's flowers and candles and tributes to Charlie. And the really eerie thing is that this guy was wearing the exact same shirt as Tyler Robinson, who is Charlie's alleged assassin. Not a similar, vaguely patriotic MAGA in disguise, conservative adjacent shirt, but the literal exact same shirt. This immediately stopped me in my tracks when I saw this a few days ago, and it gave me this really unsettled, queasy feeling about the whole thing, as if there's still another shoe to drop, as if we clearly haven't answered all of the right questions about who has been involved in this horrific event that changed our world a week ago today. And I don't know what that means moving forward. But other people are starting to feel unsettled and queasy and uncomfortable by the fact that we don't know what this means as well. And the good people out there on the front lines of new media, on X, on Instagram, on YouTube, on their podcasts, are starting to ask these same questions too. So today, I want to just draw a thread through the very observable activity that we have seen in the last week in the wake of Charlie's death and connect it to what I have observed and personally experienced myself over the past decade or so working in the conservative movement to make a very clear, compelling case to you and to call on law enforcement officials to take this seriously, that as much as the media would like for you to believe, this is not a one-off, isolated, random act of violence. There's no way that that is a logistical possibility. And at the very least, we need to start doing some serious investigation into all of this. On the last couple of hours on social media, there have been a surge of posts specifically related to flyers on college campuses advocating for events for armed queer resistance. So let's just start there. People have started to notice, especially in the state of Utah, that there has been a coordinated effort for the last several years related to an organization called the Armed Queer Resistance of Salt Lake City. This post is going viral everywhere from our friends at Libs of TikTok, but is a flyer advertising for an event that happened years ago, 2 years ago, this September, in Salt Lake City, Utah, just a few miles from where Charlie Kirk was assassinated, for this group, Armed Queer Resistance of Salt Lake City. They almost immediately scrubbed their social media accounts from the internet after Charlie's death. Interesting that they decided to do that. But Benny Johnson was able to recover one of the videos that they themselves posted on the internet about how this group, Armed Queers of Salt Lake City, Armed Queer Resistance of Salt Lake City, sent a delegation, I guess, to go do armed resistance training in Cuba in May of this year. Listen to them tell you this.
This Shay quote came up a couple of times during the trip, but Shay had once said, "You North Americans, I'm very jealous of you because you guys have the most important struggle of all. You're in the belly of the beast.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sentiment was very much felt when we were connecting with the Cuban people and people from other countries. Was they had a sense of, okay, y'all are here, y'all are learning this information, you're learning how we made our revolution, but now it's time for you to go home and make your own revolution.
We went to Cuba and we brought medicine there, but what did we bring back to the USA? And the main thing, although we may have gotten some flags or some posters, the main thing we brought back was a discipline from the lifestyle of the camp. And also, I brought back a real feeling of inspiration, a feeling that we have a world to win, and a feeling that victory is ours and that revolution will come.
We have a world to win. Revolution will come. Victory will be ours. While training in communist Cuba for Marxist armed revolution in the United States of America. That's at least interesting, no? But nobody in the mainstream media is talking about that. There's only posts about it on social media, all over X, from friends of Charlie Kirk, people who all knew him personally and have a vested interest for the sake of justice, at the very least, but also safety of the conservative movement at large and Charlie's supporters at large, to start pulling at this thread a little tiny bit. The woman in these videos is actually somebody who has a larger history related to all of this, goes by the name of Ermaya. And I'm seeing conflicting reports on this, so don't take the pronouns as face value here because we're still figuring this out. Some people are saying this is a man who has transitioned into a woman. Some people are saying this is a woman. We don't know that. We're going to do some further investigation for you guys. But this is the founder of Armed Queers Salt Lake City. And this person has been previously honored by like the UN and the US State Department under previous presidential administrations. This Armed Queers SLC is also this woman is also an organizer for a different organization that is literally funded by the Chinese Communist Party, as confirmed by Representative Ana Paulina Luna, who we had on the show yesterday. She has confirmed to us that Armed Queers SLC is under FBI investigation now as part of a potentially extended network related to Charlie's killer and potentially other events like this that might happen in the future. But what's interesting to me, and frankly appalling to me, is that this organization is not a new thing, okay? This event happened in September of 2023. Let's put this flyer back up on the screen. To educate people all across the Salt Lake City network on queer resistance, of course, with the hammer and sickle there in lieu of the Q, in, ironically, the Unity Lounge room of whatever campus they were speaking on. It's disgusting. Empowering people to take up arms and to agitate, educate, and organize. The language here is very Antifa coded, which we'll come back to, but this is not a new concept. This event happened almost to the day 2 years ago in Salt Lake City, Utah. The Young Americans for Freedom organization, YAF, actually reported on this way back then in September of 2023, and they were warning the world about this. Here's a headline from when they were reporting on this 2 full years ago, that the University of Utah had sponsored a lecture by this armed queers socialist militia. Concerning, I think, from 2 years ago, but nobody pulled at that thread then in Utah, in the greater Salt Lake City area. It took this horrific tragedy to take place for law enforcement to remotely start investigating this larger web of connections between various radical, violent, far-left, very well-funded, organized groups that are sending delegations for armed militia training in Cuba. It took Charlie being violently assassinated for headlines like this one from the New York Post to come up. And again, the New York Post is the only mainstream outlet I have remotely seen covering this. That the Charlie Kirk assassination investigation has widened to a probe on whether pro-trans and online groups knew in advance. Groups. Plural. But I thought the media said this guy was just like a randomly troubled MAGA white supremacist nationalist guy. That's what they would have you believe in the last few days. Groups? Why is no one talking about this? They say this in the article. Meanwhile, a slew of disturbing, though yet unverified, social media posts about Kirk are raising questions about whether some people online may have known about the assassination before it happened on September 10th. And the some people they're referring to is bigger than Tyler Robinson and his trans boyfriend. They write this: taken together, they leave a trail of breadcrumbs for investigators who are trying to determine whether Robinson acted all on his own or whether he had accomplices. First of all, you don't say, okay? There have been 8 million unanswered questions in the wake of Charlie's death that people have been rightfully demanding answers to that are not remotely being covered in this investigation, nor were answered in the release of the text messages between Tyler and his gay trans boyfriend earlier this week. Nobody has answered the question of who organized this rifle drop-off pickup in the woods and who was involved in that larger coordination of efforts. This series of texts between Tyler and the trans boyfriend has a lot still left unanswered and feels very unusually pre-planned. A lot of people are starting to speculate that maybe they verbally spoke in advance of, I'm going to text you this is what you text me back, which has happened in previous criminal situations like this. And also, people are finally starting to pay attention to the fact that there have been people who knew about this well in advance, who have been openly posting about it on social media for weeks or even months in advance of Charlie Kirk's assassination on September 10th. This tweet was included in the New York Post article from a guy named Omar. A guy. We'll come back to that. Let's just say something big will happen tomorrow, after referencing a previous tweet that showed him saying, Charlie Kirk is coming to my college campus tomorrow. I really hope someone evaporates him, literally. We have a picture of Omar, which we'll put on the screen for you right now. I don't even have commentary to provide to that, because if this isn't the most obvious coordination of a larger network, I can't possibly begin to draw that line in brighter neon yellow flashing lights for you. This armed queer resistance of Salt Lake City is not the only group that is advertising for similar events like this on college campuses. And again, within the last several hours, more and more of these posts have been popping up on social media with flyers like this one at UNC Asheville, the University of North Carolina, Asheville. Be Gay, Do Crime hybrid event that is hosted by this famous drag queen situation. Lovely. And at first blush, it looks like the university might be sponsoring this event, but actually they're advertising on the flyer that it's supposed to take place at something called the Firestorm Coffee Shop, which Andy No, very well-known Antifa expert and someone who has been targeted by Antifa maybe more than any other person on the planet, ended up responding to this tweet as it started going viral on social media to clarify that the location of this event is directly linked to Antifa. Let's look at this right now. Andy says on Twitter, the venue for this Trantifa event, I think that's a great tagline, is the Firestorm Bookstore in Asheville, North Carolina. That space doubles as a meeting place for Antifa and other violent extremists who are radicalizing one another and new recruits, even though it's not advertised as an Antifa event. It is directly linked to Antifa. Antifa, he points out, during the 2020 deadly violence that they exhibited as an organization, used the same Be Gay, Do Crime slogan at their riots that took place across the country. And I guess that's what brings us to what I want you to pay attention today, which is Antifa, and what the organization, the radically violent organization, has done to radicalize so many people who subscribe to these woke identities into actual violence. It used to be said on the left, and even from Antifa members when they would protest events that I was speaking at, for example, that existence is resistance, right? Queer existence is resistance. Just breathing as a queer person is resistance to the patriarchy and to the white nationalist MAGA agenda. I mean, these were very common slogans that they've been using over the last few years. But we've known, those of us who have had run-ins with Antifa over the past few years and who have very clearly been observing their behavior, that it's not just limited to existence as a leftist or as one of these woke ideologies. It's a web that is organizing into actual resistance armed violence and doing everything they can to take out people that they perceive as a threat to their worldview and their organization. We are so excited on the show to be partnering with our friends at Balance of Nature. Balance of Nature supplements are the result of years of research and development. They regularly test their products using independent third-party laboratory analysis. They have 100% fresh ingredients of whole fruits, vegetables, spices, and fibers. The fruits and veggies supplement, which I love, includes 31 colorful ingredients and 16 whole fruits and 15 whole vegetables like mangoes, pineapples, blueberries, bananas, mushrooms, wheatgrass, kale, which I cannot eat really by themselves, but I love it in Balance of Nature, pepper, broccoli, aloe vera, and so much more. Balance of Nature's fiber and spice supplement is the only one on the market that combines 12 amazing spices and 4 whole fibers. Even with a really solid dietary routine and sticking to a very clear nutrition plan, most of us still do not get enough fruits or vegetables or spices, and especially fiber. More than 90% of Americans do not meet the recommended intake of dietary fiber every day, which can really upset your tummy. Take it from me. You can take the fruits and veggies supplement with water, chew on them, or open them up and pour the powder into your drink of choice. It is totally convenient and has no mess, and it's my favorite way to take them, frankly. And the fiber and spice supplement can be mixed with water or your favorite drink as well. Balance of Nature's goal is to deliver natural goodness and ingredients of fruits, vegetables, spices, and fibers just as nature intended, and has been so important for me as I keep up my nutrition journey as a new mom. You can go to balanceofnature.com and use promo code Isabel for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer, plus get a free bottle of their fiber and spice supplement. That's balanceofnature.com, promo code Isabel. Let me be abundantly clear about this because I don't want there to be any confusion. And nobody in the mainstream media has the courage to tell you this today. There has been a clear, observable pattern of actual violence. Not just threats, not just protests, certainly not peaceful protests, but actual violence against so many in the conservative movement, but specifically against Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk, led by Antifa for literally a decade. And honestly, I'm just so disgusted. I'm disgusted